Okay. Just thought about this.
Uh-huh.
The two characters who were supposed to die in the Sasuke retrieval arc, Choji and Neji, per like the interview statements, are the only two who got more development in Shippuden, albeit not that much, excluding Naruto and Shikamaru, who obviously got a lot. So we're really looking at Kiba and Lee for comparison. And interestingly, Choji and Neji are the two who had the most finality to their character arcs in the Sasuke retrieval arc, as they were written with the intent of them being dead originally. With that in mind, should Kiba and Lee have instead gotten their Neji and Choji moments of the war arc? As some examples, Lee fights Edo Tensei Neji instead of Choji versus Asuma. So hey, we actually get Lee versus Neji like so many people wanted. We can still have the Choji versus Shikamaru rewrite, by the way, in this case. And I wrote, and I guess Kiba just dies for Naruto and Hinata or something else with him.
So, immediately, there is a Lee versus Neji power scaling problem that I just want to hear what ideas you have to get around
Okay. Okay, yes. I know that that's an obvious one. So I have a couple of ideas. Option number 1. Neji's a genius.
He just was that strong.
Yeah, so options 1 and 2 are basically the same but slightly different. So option 1, Neji was that strong all along. He just was that strong in tuning exams. He just got off guard and hit by Naruto, and that's the problem.
In that case, I have a hilarious one for you. So we're just going to give the debaters what they want. So we're going to swap Lee and Neji's fights in the Sasuke retrieval arc. So Lee just goes from the get-go, and he fights Kitamaro. And he just, maybe his 8 gates is it negates the webs or whatever. Whereas Neji just is going to fight Kimimaro. And we're just going to have Gaara not show up.
Screw Gaara. It's Neji Kimimaro.
Just Neji.
I mean, I'm not saying that wouldn't be cool as hell, but option 2. So in option 1, you can just have Neji from the tuning exams to Sasuke retrieval arc be equal strength. Option 2, Neji was that dude in the tuning exams and he got even stronger. So that in the Sasuke retrieval arc, as I mentioned in a previous topic, Neji's just the only one who just straight up just does, like, fight, tie/win against Kidomaru, arguably the strongest at the Sound 4. Like, he just does do that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say tie. Choji had to take the red pill. You know, that gives him the thing he gets in the war. You know, the amp that gets him fighting the ghetto statue. That's what Choji's red pill is, by the way. Ghetto statue Choji. Neji's just, like, there. So... that you could just be, and obviously just upscale all the Sound 4. Who's got a problem with that? Kidomaru can just be Shippuden Lee level. I don't care. Neji's a genius. It's the point of that fight.
I have more options, unless you wanted to say more.
No, continue.
Okay, so
first thoughts.
Between those two options, well, actually, they're very, very similar, weren't they?
They're basically the same. The only difference is in 1, Neji's already there in the tuning exams. The option 2, he's not quite there in the tuning exams.
I don't think I care between those two options.
Exactly.
Okay. So let me present 2 different options to you. You're gonna like one more than the other, probably. I'll start with the one that you're gonna like less. So the one you're gonna hate. Okay, so basically just change Choji versus Asuma to Lee versus Neji, to where the reason that, in this case, Neji just doesn't scale up to be that strong. Neji just was Kid Neji level. The reason that Lee is going to scale down is because he's too nice, and emotionally, Neji's his best friend. It's like the jutsu of regret, which is the Edo Tensei, and that's like the whole point of it, that you're fighting your loved ones, the ones that you don't want to fight the most is your closest ally is your actual enemy, your biggest enemy. But
in Lee's case, there's a very easy scaling thing to do, just where, like, Lee needed the gates to beat, like, you need the 5th gate to beat Neji in part 1. Mm-hmm. Specifically, that's when he's like, this is what I'm using for you, Neji. So, like, base Shippuden Lee could even out with like Byakugan serious Neji, and then obviously the gates you just demolish in that case, and then you could just do that. So instead of butterfly mode, he does the gates there.
Yeah. The other option that is kind of cool the way you start. Okay. The other option, now I think you're gonna like the other one better. You're gonna hate this one more. The other option was gonna be, instead of scaling either of them up, Lee's just gonna do nothing in Shippuden, and he's just going to have been practically permanently hurt from the Gaara fight. Not like permanently, but like that seriously stunted his growth to where he's now being healed instead of maybe Sasuke retrieval arc. Maybe you could have him there, but I don't know. But like Gaara was saying, he was weaker then anyways. Maybe that Lee just can't use the gates anymore, or he can't like put on his weights. Like he can be fast since that's what.
Well, I'm thinking in
Kimimura was
this
saying
case, he won't have used the gates up until this fight. This would be like the first fight when he's able
Okay.
to use the gates again.
Okay,
Like
maybe
it'd be
he
like
can
almost like
a mental block.
breaking through,
Yeah,
and like
too scared to use
I
it.
actually think you can
PTSD.
get away with this premise for Neji and Lee because, for the most part, outside of Naruto, when he's like using Nine-Tails chakra and summoning Gamabunta, and Gaara's the other exception here, but Neji, Lee, and Gaara just were the strongest three, except for when Naruto's using Nine-Tails, Sasuke uses the curse mark. You know what I mean? Like they just are like the strongest. So like, I think you could just have Neji and Lee be ahead of the others. Lee's injured, that keeps him behind for a little while, and then Neji's dead, obviously. So then, like, that allows the other Konoha 12 to catch up a bit, and then obviously Lee with the gates here in the war arc, he gets back ahead a little bit. Obviously not ahead of Naruto at this point, but like he's ahead of Kiba and them now again, so on. Could do a thing there.
Okay. I think
Especially if you play into Lee's like weakness throughout Shippuden, to where like they're just doing stuff with him there.
That's his in-story weakness rather than in-universe weakness.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like,
Yeah.
So with those ideas out of the way,
I think you can actually combine two of those ideas for like plot and story for like the physical thing versus like the mental thing.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. There you go. But what about Kiba?
Okay, so I'm gonna try and make this work.
This is the real problem with this.
I'm gonna try. So first of all, I'm just gonna change the premise where he's not dying for Naruto and Hinata.
I know,
laughing
that was kind
face
of a
emoji
joke.
because
You do something
Neji
else
didn't
with
die for Naruto and Hinata. I don't care what Kishimoto says. He's wrong. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean it in the sense of for the relationship. I meant like he died to protect them.
Okay, so we're already getting closer to something that I can actually justify. Okay.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, sorry. What I meant, I meant not the relationship, but for the protection aspect.
Yeah, that's, okay. Well, first of all, actually, now that I think about it, I probably could justify the relationship. For example, the prelims tuning exams. Kiba's already kind of noticing a Hinata Naruto thing, and by Shippuden, he's definitely figured it out. So he could definitely do something there. Plus, that is literally his teammate. Like, he cares about Hinata. He told Hinata not to fight Neji. He's
literally commented on it several times. Like, he's made jokes in the part 1 filler, even. He's doing it.
Exactly.
So.
And just like, this is hilarious. Just like Neji, Naruto defeated Kiba in the tuning exams. It almost worked perfectly.
And just like Neji, Kiba's on the Sasuke retrieval arc team.
It almost does, yeah. And I would argue that Naruto, you could argue, did change Kiba. Obviously not nearly to the same degree that you changed Neji, but...
You definitely changed him. Just look at the way, when Kiba's watching Neji's fight, you can just tell.
I wouldn't even say he changed him. It wasn't a change. He changed his mind, not his ideology. He changed his mind on Naruto.
Mind on Naruto
Yeah. Not on the world.
Yeah. It's not comparable to Neji at all.
I know. Okay, well, either
it's
way.
Like the equivalent of how Naruto beating Neji changed Lee's mind on Naruto.
I think it could be sweet though if Kiba dies for Hinata's relationship with Naruto, because he knows that Hinata hasn't confessed to Naruto, and it would eat Kiba up inside if Hinata died before then.
Kiba was watching when Hinata did confess to Naruto.
Okay, well, that's fine. Or just have me passed out or something else. I don't care. But I think that'd be sweet though if he dies because he knows Hinata hasn't had the chance to actually confess her true feelings to Naruto. Blah blah blah, and or you could also make the argument that Hinata's already found the person that she loves and wants to be with forever. But I haven't found anyone like that, and so I'll do the selfless thing and protect the one who deserves living more, or something like that.
Okay, I've got one that's either gonna be you're
God.
gonna love it, or I think it's so stupid.
Okay.
So obviously, Kiba's bond is with Akamaru.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a moment earlier in the war, whenever Akamaru dies protecting Kiba, then Kiba decides, just like Akamaru did for him, he's going to protect his friends too. So most notably Hinata here, more than Naruto, but also Naruto, but most notably Hinata, because she jumps in the way anyway, right?
Okay.
So he's going to protect his friend, just like Akamaru did for him, and he'll be able to join his friend Akamaru.
Okay. I have one that you're not going to like. I did like that, by the way. I don't think that was stupid. I think that was actually really good. I have one that you're not gonna like.
It's gonna be one or the other. I don't think there'll be an in between.
Yeah. So okay, one you're not gonna like. This isn't that it's stupid. It's just that you're just like gonna think this is such like a nothing thing, anyways. Naruto has people who he's rivaling to become Hokage against. That being Konohamaru, Kiba. You could argue to a degree. Tsunade, to a degree. There was a little bit something there, at least during that one arc. Sasuke.
Hinata, everyone else who said they want to be Hokage in the war.
Yeah. He has several rivals to be Hokage. Even Gaara became Kage.
Gaara to be Kage.
Yeah, and then Neji became Jonin, whereas he's still a Genin, etc. Like Neji wasn't necessarily going for Kage, but you get the idea.
Neji wasn't competing with him.
Yeah, but Naruto has several Kage rivals. This could be Kiba finally for the first time acknowledging Naruto's not the underdog and that he will become Hokage. I just know it, and I'm going to put my life on the line and risk my own dream of becoming Hokage for him. Since Konohamaru's technically already done that. Konohamaru now believes that Naruto's going to be the 7th Hokage, so Konohamaru's going to be the 8th Hokage is what he tells Tsunade. This could be Kiba's moment of realization for that. Similarly, Shikamaru has the moment thinking about.
He doesn't even have to do it that way. It could just be like Obito kind of, to where he's like, like, I always want to be Hokage. You better become Hokage.
Okay.
Not to steal Obito's line, but it would work for Kiba.
But I think this also works because Shikamaru is also having the moment in the war when he's dying, and he's having the realization that he has to live to be Naruto's Hokage advisor.
I'm not gonna lie. I was just thinking about it. I would have loved a Neji Hokage or Neji Hokage advisor. He's so cool. And he would be good, I think.
Yeah. But since the War Arc's whole thing is everyone propping Naruto up, as we even talked about earlier today here. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, but at the very most bottom thing I posted here, that like everyone's propping Naruto up with the final Rasengan. Which, by the way, I looked for the gif of actually the hands around the Rasengan. I just couldn't.
I know, that was hilarious. It just wasn't in the gif.
I know. But I knew that you would knew what I was talking about, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, since the whole thing is about everyone propping Naruto up to support his dream so he can be the light in the shinobi world or whatever, this could just be Kiba sacrificing himself for that same idea.
Yeah.
That being said, okay, I did have a couple other ideas. So my first idea that I actually had with the Kiba sacrifice, the way that you could write it, this might be a little bit of a rewrite, but in the Sasuke retrieval arc, when Kiba's fighting Sako no Nukon, it's more of a hunt than a fight. We've already talked about this. Kiba doesn't want to die. I don't want to say he's scared of dying, but like you could even argue he was more so than the others. He wanted to live. He
Well,
had
you
like
could
a
also
happy,
argue that
positive
he
life.
wasn't because he's also the one who stabbed himself and was ready to
Well,
kill
but
himself.
he only
to kill
did that
Ukon.
once he like got his conviction. In my opinion.
True.
But because if anything, I don't want to say he's a Nepo baby.
Yeah,
He's definitely not. But he's like definitely the privileged, like not rich kid, but he's like the Mr. Popular. Like he had like the good life, in comparison to like the rest. So he never really had it hard. So he definitely enjoyed life. He loved life. He didn't want to die. I would say you could play with that angle where he didn't want to die. Whatever Sasuke Retrieval arc, it goes the same way. You can argue. Maybe Pain arc. You could do some crazy stuff, such as he like is a coward and hides because he doesn't want to die.
His Pain arc scenes because he fights the Prey path and does nothing. So
exactly. So you could have it be a coward scene to where he knows his mom is fighting, and maybe he even knows his mom dies fighting Pain, so she's gonna be brought back anyways. Doesn't matter. To where he's just gonna stay hiding because he can't imagine dying. It's gonna be like Sasuke fighting Orochimaru in the Forest of Death. He's too scared to come out and save his mom, which is actually gonna contrast really well against Choji, who, under Kakashi's order, runs away from Choza, who dies. Not really, but you get the idea.
I mean, I like the idea when you're going there. I will say, though, that's definitely... I feel like that feels contradictory to the Ukon stabbing himself scene, but ignoring that, the premise I'm liking.
Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like that. It could be the exact opposite of that, but I think you could do a Pain arc moment. But the whole point is, by the time we get to the... Oh, also, I forgot to say, in just all of Shippuden, we're just going to have Kiba be more prominent in this case. So, for example...
obviously. Yeah, that's the point. Like, the point of this is that Choji and Neji would die because their character arcs were completed really nicely in the Sasuke Retrieval arc.
And so, like...
So, like, the point was, then you give Neji... no, not Neji.
Kiba.
Tell I like Neji.
But in this case, Kiba's gonna be like at the sorcery fight, Datara fight, whatever you want to say there. He's gonna be fighting the 3 clones instead of Lee. Like he's just gonna be the one there fighting Kisame or whatever. He's gonna have all of Lee or Neji's moments in Shippuden. He'll be the one out of the village during the Pain arc. It'll be him instead of Team Guy or whatever. Specifically, only him. He's doing a solo mission like Konoha in the future.
Everything. Every mission, it's all him.
But yeah, he's a lot more prominent. That plays into his character. Everyone's gonna like him at this point because I do think, based on how he protected Akamaru and like how he loved Akamaru and showed that life that he loved in the Sasuke Retrieval arc, when he was like giving up his own life to stop Sakura no Ukon, I feel like from that moment, Kiba became a likable character, and then we just never saw him again. If anything, he was annoying in Shippuden. And so if you...
Exactly. And that's where the Kiba, quote-unquote, became a meme starts. Shippuden. It's not the Sasuke Retrieval arc, or any part 1.
Yeah, so if you just...
is good.
Go into Kiba immediately being prominent, maybe even... I don't want to take a...
Well,
okay, I got something funny. Okay, so everyone else became Chunin, Neji became Jonin, Kiba became a special
You're going to say the same thing I was going to say. Okay, we're going to say it at the same time. Kiba, since Neji's dead, Kiba's the Jonin.
Okay. Okay, I wasn't thinking Neji's dead, but yeah, okay, you could have Kiba be Jonin since Kiba... And we could say his reason for doing so is because he's been training even more than anyone else because he's Naruto's rival to become Hokage, which plays...
He wants to be a Hokage, right? And it can even be a joking line where he's like joking with Naruto or vice versa, about how Kiba's a Jonin and close to becoming Hokage. And then, obviously, Kiba just... Shikamaru, what, like Tamari says, basically is a Jonin, and he's just too lazy to become one. So, what does that mean? It means the 2 from the Sasuke Retrieval arc who aren't dead, basically Shikamaru and obviously Kiba, they're the Jonin. I'm gonna count Shikamaru because he basically is a Jonin, he just wasn't officially one.
You could even have a very dumb scene, like when Team 7 was first formed and like Sakura's like, yay, and Naruto's like, I'm doomed, and then like it flip-flops. You can have a thing to where it's like Naruto Kiba come face to face, and he's like, oh, I'm a Jonin now, and Kiba's like, yay, and Naruto's like, oh, I'm doomed, since like Kiba's gonna become Hokage, and then it's announced that Gaara's Kage, and Naruto's like, yay, and Kiba's like, oh, I'm doomed. It doesn't really make sense in this context, but you get the idea.
It makes no sense, but that's funny. Oh, no, oh, wait, okay, this it doesn't make any sense either. Shikamaru's like, I'm still a Chunin, and Naruto's like, yay! He was like, I'm doomed, and then he was like, I'm a Jonin, and then he was like, yay! And then Naruto's like, I'm doomed. It makes no sense. It just doesn't work here. I love the intent.
Yeah. Naruto and Kiba come face to face. Naruto says he's a Genin. And he's like, I'm doomed. And Kiba's like, yay. Kiba's like, I'm a Jonin. And Kiba says, yay. Naruto says, I'm doomed. They're both saying the same thing twice in response.
It's like in universe they just they're just forcefully trying to replicate the Sakura Naruto scene. Like they both are thinking back to it.
I hate when I laugh as hard because
throwing their hands in the air.
My body just gets so hot when I laugh this hard that I start sweating. Oh my god.
Oh god, that would be all. Put it in the bridge, please. Write it down for the abridged. I don't care.
Okay. That being said, if Neji is alive, I don't want to take away from him being Jonin, and so Kiba would just be special Jonin. Yeah.
Yeah.
In this case, we're gonna also honestly, take away from Kakashi's nose.
Anyway, because like again, so obviously various characters are getting hyped up, but like excluding the obvious, like Gaara, Neji, Lee, even Sasuke, Kiba was the next one kind of being hyped up. Like when like they're kind of like hyped, like Choji, Shikamaru, you know, they're all watching the fight and they're just gassing up Kiba. It's like this crazy, like, oh my god, he's so fast, blah blah blah. Like they're kind of hyping him up as being like one of the standouts of their class. But like, frankly, Shino should be a special Jonin too in this case.
I agree, but that would also just take away from Kiba being the special Jonin here. So I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay. Maybe Kiba could just be, or sorry, maybe Shino could just go to the Anbu. That sort of takes away from Shino's brother.
He doesn't but, he was going to be in the filler arc.
Yeah, exactly. That being said, this would be ridiculous, but since Kiba is going to be like immediately in the story to be a likable character and continuous narrative from the Sasuke retrieval arc, he's just going to replace Sai. And I don't know how you would write that, but you just write it in.
That's hilarious because I thought of the craziest Yamato replacement. Shino, his bugs are going to eat the chakra of the V2 cloak to get rid of it.
Oh.
Hello?
Can you say that again? Hang on.
What did you hear last?
Okay, there we go. Okay, my headphones are going out. Okay, say it again.
What did you hear last?
Nothing. That's not an answer.
Okay, so you said Kiba will replace Sai, and I said, well, that's funny because I was thinking of the most interesting Yamato replacement because you mentioned Shino and the Anbu. It's Shino's Yamato.
Okay.
And his bug eat the chakra off of V2 Naruto.
I'm down. That works perfectly. Plus, that literally just makes sense if they're making that a thing at the beginning of Shippuden, anyways.
Exactly. That's why. Like we already know his chakra. His bugs eat chakra. You see what they do to the freaking Ten-Tails clones, and he's got Anbu ties. He can have some more interactions with Torune in this case, because Shino can be part of Tsunade's Anbu, while Torune is part of Danzo's Anbu. Make some of that actual filler stuff actually canon and interesting, both before and after Edo Tensei, by the way. That actually could be cool. Make Shino cooler and stronger.
I do think Torune basically sacrificing himself to be Anbu so that Shino doesn't have to is actually both good and interesting. I've actually written a script about it. Not a whole script, like, it's written in a script. But maybe it could be like a thing to where it's like, so Shino can have a childhood, and when he's a teenager, then he can join the Anbu. Maybe that was his compromise.
I mean, you could also just rewrite it. He did it so that Shino wouldn't have to join the Foundation.
I was thinking that the Foundation, yeah. He's still Anbu.
Tsunade's Anbu is pretty cool.
Yeah. That works. We could also do a thing, since the Uchiha were wiped out anyways, maybe like the police force, whatever role they are looking like. Maybe one of these characters could be it. Maybe Kiba could be police force chief or something.
That could work, but there's a lot of options. It would be replacing Kiba with Sai is interesting because their character arcs will not be the same.
No.
So, well, yeah, what do you want to do in that regard?
Well, okay.
Anbu Shino has Sai's character arc.
So this is ridiculous, but yes, in this case, we're not only swapping Shino for Yamato and Sai for Kiba, we're also swapping the roles that Yamato and Sai play in this arc.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna be Shino, the leader, is gonna be the one to go with Orochimaru, and Kiba, the teammate, is just going to follow Team 7 to them.
Unless we have Kiba be the leader and
He can step
Shino
up
is just
to
the
be the leader.
teammate.
Yeah, well, because Shino's leaving, I think it's only fair that Kiba can step up to be leader, considering his role is like special Jonin or whatever.
Well, you could just have Kiba be the leader from the start as well. But then
That's
again, wait.
fair.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. This doesn't work. Shino can't leave because he's also our solution to Kurama's V2.
He just has a Ninetales repellent beetle. That's
Okay. He's got a female beetle on him.
he's gonna eat the hatred off of Naruto.
It's hilarious.
He, like, swarms him with wasps. Wasps absorb the hatred since wasps are so hateful.
Okay. As much as I like Yamato